Tonight, Canada's women's hockey team takes on the world in Brampton in pursuit of a third straight gold medal.
Awesome game. They played really well. Super fun to be here.
Go, Canada, go!
Fans are pumped after our two-time reigning champions were fire on the ice in Game 1 against the Swiss. Dale Manukduk is standing by live in Brampton with reaction to tonight's game and the major moment women's hockey is having in Canada.
The status quo is just not sustainable.
Plus, new data shows nearly 500,000 people in Ontario do not have a family doctor. We break down which communities are hardest hit and how the government is reacting to solutions being pitched by Ontario's College of Family Physicians.
He made it all seem so real.
And a months-long CBC Toronto investigation reveals a platinum recording artist is accused of duping local up-and-coming singers. Good evening, I'm Chris Glover. We begin on the ice in Brampton as Canada's women's hockey team began their quest tonight to strike gold for a third straight time in the Women's World Hockey Championship.
Villiers, shot, rebound, chance, she scores!
And Team Canada crushing Game 1 with a 4-0 win over Switzerland. Tack this tournament's excitement onto Toronto's women's pro hockey team, capturing the Isabelle Cup just over a week ago. And it is clear there's a lot to celebrate when it comes to women's hockey in our region. Let's get straight to Dale Manukduk, who is live tonight outside the CAA Centre in Brampton. And Dale, Team Canada coming out really strong in Game 1 against Switzerland. What is the vibe like outside there?
Oh, Chris, fans were absolutely thrilled, not just because Canada won, but because the World Championships are in the GTA and they got to watch such high-level sport. Team Canada absolutely dominated Switzerland 4-0. They scored a pair on the power play and opened the scoring early in the first off of a turnover. But as you mentioned, they're really locked in on this golden three-peat. They won in 2021 and 2022, both gold medal games over the United States, but that's kind of selling the team short. They also won gold in Beijing last year, again over the U.S., and then 2 months ago, they came all the way back from a 3-0 deficit in a best-of-7 to win the rivalry series against the Americans. So they really are the queens of the ice, and they know it.
Everyone comes here to win a world championship, so we definitely keep that in mind whenever we approach our opponents. But I think we play with so much confidence, and we've earned the right to play that way over the last few years. So we're really excited to keep building and keep improving.
These cross-border rivals have met in 20 of the 21 finals. No other team has ever won the championship. So it would be more surprising, Chris, if they didn't meet again in the finals on April 16th.
Oh, goodness. So exciting for that. Okay, and it's Team Canada players really having a moment here, but they're not the only players on a roll. Women's hockey in general is just surging right now. You've been speaking with fans about the state of the game. What did they have to say about all that?
Yeah, this tournament is really setting the stage for a hat trick of wins for women's hockey, especially in the GTA. You know, the Toronto Six, the city's professional hockey team, brought home its first Isabelle Cup 10 days ago after a thrilling 4-3 overtime win. And just yesterday, the Hockey Hall of Fame debuted its exhibit on the women's game. So fans here really taking notice of the growth of the game.
I think it's great. I think we just need to keep advertising it so more people can see it.
It's a shame that people are missing out. It's so awesome. And I'm really glad it's excelled, and I'd like to bring it up to the same grade as the men's, of course.
Do you want to be a women's professional hockey player?
Yeah.
Tell me why.
Because I want to be on TV, and I love hockey, and I'm a girl, so.
So the success of women's hockey really making an impact. You see those young fans who might suit up one day in a Team Canada jersey. Next up for the squad, they'll play the Czechs tomorrow night, but the big prelim game, Chris, is on Monday when they take on the United States here at the CAA Centre in Brampton.
It's all just so inspiring. Love to see it. Thanks for this report tonight, Dale. Now, today's weather affecting celebrations in Brampton. An outdoor viewing party of tonight's game was canceled, but the storm was quite the spectacle overnight. Just look at the CN Tower from early this morning and the slippery roads making for a slower than normal commute home tonight. And looking live from our harbor camera this hour, the tower is definitely not seeing the same kind of lightning strikes, but a lot of mist out there as we look live at our city. Definitely a much calmer evening as the rain tapers off. Let's get to Colette Kennedy for a first look at your weather forecast. And Colette, what a wet mess today was.
Yeah, Chris, often with spring storms, they're really the battle between winter and summer, so they can have components of both seasons. And so we had the warm conditions in southwestern Ontario with the thunderstorm watches, even a tornado watch and some severe thunderstorm warnings. And then it was freezing rain, continuous, and power outages into eastern Ontario. What was more consistent were the lightning strikes across the area. You see how many. I know it woke a lot of folks up early this morning, but that was the one ingredient that was everywhere. Well, we're seeing improving conditions, some patchy fog overnight tonight. The winds will be breezy out of the west. That temperature, I know, a little wonky. It's kind of come up and goes back down as we head towards the morning hours. Too bad we couldn't get into the warmer temperatures during the day like it happened in southwestern Ontario, but at least we get clearing. It'll be a little cooler tomorrow, but we'll see more sun, especially through those afternoon hours. 7 by early tomorrow morning, and then, Chris, the high tomorrow, 11.
Not a bad day coming our way. Thanks, Colette. Ontario's housing minister announcing his plan today to strengthen protections for renters. It includes cracking down on so-called renovictions. That's when a landlord falsely claims that renovations are needed and the tenant is then evicted.
When a tenant is required to vacate a unit to allow for renovations, landlords would be required to provide a report from a qualified person stating that the unit must be vacant to allow renovations to take place.
Tenants would then have a 60-day grace period to move back into their unit at the same price. The requirement is one of several changes the government is proposing to help renters, including doubling the maximum fines for landlords who break the rules. The opposition, meanwhile, says there's a glaring omission from today's announcement: rent control. Right now, there's only rent control on housing built before the PCs first came to power in 2018. And tonight, the Ford government is defending its handling of the healthcare system in our province, especially when it comes to family doctors. New research shows nearly 500,000 people in Ontario do not have a family physician. Talia Ricci has more on the scope of the issue and new proposals to fix it.
415,000 Torontonians don't have a family doctor, according to an Ontario Health Research Group. And this doctor says it's those who are vulnerable in our communities who are impacted the most.
In the West End, North End of North Toronto, and in Scarborough, we're seeing that the lower the income is, the higher proportions don't have family doctors.
The latest data from Inspire Primary Healthcare also shows at least 203,000 of those who don't have a family doctor live in racialized neighborhoods. 54,000 suffer from mental illness, and 30,000 of those Torontonians live with diabetes.
When we get to a point that 72,000 people lose their doctor within 2 years, the status quo is just not sustainable.
The Ontario College of Family Physicians is pitching solutions, including hiring healthcare team members who can provide family doctors with the support they need to free up more time for patients, and improving outdated digital systems that will ease the overwhelming administrative burden family doctors are experiencing.
There's an increased amount of time that family docs have to spend on administrative tasks or red tape.
When I was doing community family practice, I would go into clinic at 7 a.m. to finish, kind of look at my day, review charts. I would start seeing patients at 9, probably see patients till 6:37, come home, eat dinner, and then I'd be doing paperwork till midnight.
Dr. Tara Curran is a family doctor and scientist at St. Michael's Hospital. She's been looking at solutions to improve primary care in Ontario too, working alongside a team of people who work outside of healthcare.
One of the key recommendations from the report is actually to move away from solo fee-for-service physicians towards team-based models like family health teams or community health centers, which are actually present in Ontario today, but are really only available to less than 30% of the population.
The Ministry of Health says it's taking measures to boost the number of family doctors in the province, including launching a medical school expansion, breaking down barriers for internationally trained doctors, and allowing healthcare workers from other provinces to immediately start working in Ontario. Healthcare workers say they hope to see improvements soon, because what's happening in the healthcare system now isn't sustainable.
So in the short term, I think the consequences would be seeing a lot of these patients in the emergency rooms. And in the long term, what I'm firsthand seeing is prolonged hospitalizations, because patients medically are much more complex now. They're coming in later.
Talia Ricci, CBC News, Toronto.
Toronto police have arrested several people they believe were behind a series of carjackings and pharmacy robberies across the GTA.
This group committed 23 pharmacy robberies where both narcotics and cash were targeted and obtained, 7 carjacking robberies, 2 robberies at currency exchange establishments, and 2 car thefts.
6 people were arrested, including a 15-year-old boy, as a result of Project Repeater, and close to $1 million in property was recovered. Turning now to city politics, and Toronto's mayoral by-election is really ramping up. Candidates putting forward their ideas, especially around transit safety. Municipal Affairs reporter Sean Jeffords has a recap of today's campaigning.
City Councillor Josh Matlow kicked off his run for mayor today, surrounded by supporters at an event in Midtown. He unveiled the first plank of his election platform, which focused on TTC safety and will affect the Toronto police.
There are too many people I hear from every day who won't even take the TTC anymore. They don't feel safe. They see people who need a home, who are unwell, who need our support, and there's been too many violent incidents on the TTC and in our neighborhoods.
Matlow says he'd spend $115 million over 3 years to bolster mental health supports in the transit system. But how he intends to fund it could be controversial. Matlow says that money will come from freezing the Toronto Police Service budget.
So what I'm doing is stabilizing the police budget. Yes, we're going to put a pause on putting more money toward a budget that's already one of the top line items, well over $1 billion, and begin investing those savings toward preventing violence from occurring in the first place through proven initiatives and programs.
But any freeze in the police budget could have consequences, warns this former city councillor who once ran against Matlow.
Whether it's possible to freeze the police budget, having been on the budget committee many times, there are these things called contracts that are built in, and the raises are built in. So to freeze it would mean that you'd actually have to reduce police.
That announcement came on the same day that mayoral candidate and MPP Mitzi Hunter asked her last question in the legislature. She'll have to resign to run for mayor. Hunter launched a transit safety plan of her own this week and asked Premier Doug Ford about the TTC.
And everyone in Toronto deserves the best public transportation possible when they travel for work, school, or pleasure.
Question.
Knowing that, how can we provide from the province the best support to the TTC?
Meanwhile, the campaign air war has started with candidate Anna Bailau introducing herself to Torontonians via online video.
My name is Anna Bailau, and I love this city. I'm running for mayor to make sure that Toronto works for everyone.
So far, 31 candidates have registered to run for mayor. The cutoff to sign up for the by-election is May 12th. Toronto goes to the polls on June 26th. Sean Jeffords, CBC News.
Returning now with a CBC Toronto months-long investigation, platinum recording artist Danny Fernandez is accused of duping aspiring singers out of thousands of dollars. Our investigation revealed the Juno-nominated artist took money from musicians who thought they were paying him to help advance their careers. They say instead, he left behind a trail of unpaid debts and broken dreams. Angelina King now with the exclusive reporting.
Glenn Pretty's dream is to one day sell out Madison Square Garden in New York City. So when he started working with Danny Fernandez, he thought he was one step closer.
Obviously, I'm freaking out because I used to listen to him as a kid, so I was like, this is a big deal.
Pretty responded to a Facebook ad linked to this account in the summer of 2020, offering aspiring singers the chance to record a song with Fernandez for $75 an hour. The first time they met, Pretty says he paid $2,500 to record a song. One Fernandez told him would make him a star.
You're gonna be rolling around in like a Ferrari, like you're gonna be rich and famous, and I'm gonna get you in front of, these record labels, like just so many promises.
Most of which never happened or didn't exist, he says. Like the manager Pretty thought he hired for $8,000 to get the song on the radio.
He made it all seem so real.
They released this holiday music video online, but in the 6 months leading up, Pretty says he was being duped. According to civil court filings, he gave Fernandez around $55,000. Some went to music and the rest Fernandez borrowed. A judge ordered Fernandez repay it all, but Pretty has yet to receive a cent.
I had to work extra long hours, and I was trying to pick up anything that I could, like any side jobs, and it was tough. Like, I was getting really worried.
Text messages, bank documents, and 2 lawsuits reveal Fernandez took more than $200,000 from about a dozen people. Some artists say they now believe he preyed on their pursuit of fame and then faked friendships with them as a ploy to borrow money without paying it back.
I have nothing to lose.
That's what Harman Madar says went through his mind when he responded to Fernandez's ad from Vancouver a month after Pretty did. But in the end, he did lose about $100,000, he says. Madar says he gave Fernandez about $80,000, some for music projects that didn't pan out, and the rest was borrowed. He says he idolized Fernandez and believed he'd pay him back.
He considered me like a brother kind of thing, and we got really close.
Madar says Fernandez knew the money came from a settlement, which he got when he was in an accident as a child that paralyzed him from the waist down.
He's been exactly doing this blueprint, it seems, for years.
Colin Feliz says he gave Fernandez $5,000 to produce 5 songs. He says in the process, the two became close.
It was more family than friend.
So when Fernandez asked for money to help pay the bills, Feliz says his mom lent him more than $4,000. He says Fernandez promised to pay them back, but hasn't. Fernandez agreed to speak with us, but didn't follow through with 2 interviews. In the end, he sent us an email apologizing to those he, quote, hurt or misled, saying in part, all those happened when I was not in my right mind. I was using drugs, and no one will understand what that's like unless they've been through it. But it appears Fernandez's requests for money continued. During part of a time, Fernandez told CBC he was sober and in a treatment facility. CBC has confirmed he was in a facility. After not hearing from Fernandez for 2 years, Madar got a message from him in January apologizing and promising to repay him. In the text messages reviewed by CBC, Fernandez says he needs money urgently for various things like medication and groceries. Over the next month, the messages show Fernandez convincing Madar to send him more than 60 e-transfers, totaling approximately $18,000. Madar says he believed Fernandez when he said he'd repay him with money from a police brutality lawsuit. There's no evidence such a suit exists.
I'm like, I can give someone a second chance.
In his email to CBC Toronto, Fernandez said, I'm not a bad person, I've just made some mistakes, and all I can do is move forward and try to be a better person. Fernandez's lawyer, Amadeo DiCarlo, is urging anyone who may have had a similar experience with Fernandez to contact DiCarlo. He says they'll try and repay any money that was lost. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Now, many people have come to us with allegations that Fernandez scammed them, including fans who were supposed to get their tattoos done by the former pop singer. For their stories, you can head to our website. That's at cbc.ca/Toronto. Let's get back to Colette now for a look at the long-range forecast. And Colette, certainly quite the weather mix across our region today, hey?
Well, we did have a few firsts in Canada for 2023, one being 20 degrees hit by a community. In fact, didn't stop there. It was Windsor and went up to just over 24 degrees before that daytime heating was done. However, that also added energy for some active weather. So the first tornado watch we've seen anywhere in Canada was in southwestern Ontario earlier today. Of course, we know things have calmed down. The temperatures are sort of all over the map here as we're heading towards midnight, but then we'll see more uniformity towards the morning. A bit of patchy fog. Otherwise, we'll get those clouds starting to break away. So the sun will be back for Thursday. Could be a little more cloud cover early part of that day, but then we'll see that breaking up in areas where it's a little more stubborn. And it's as though somebody ordered it up in terms of the weather for a long weekend. When we have a long weekend, we're always like, oh, couldn't there just be a nice big ridge that builds in and takes over? And so we have dry and sunny conditions. Well, that has happened, and that's what's coming our way. So once we get through tonight and a little bit of residual stuff here, we see that ridge bringing the clearer skies. And it's not just what we get into Thursday, but for Friday, for Good Friday, into Saturday, Easter Sunday. Now, Into Monday, I see a little more cloud cover coming in. There is going to be a weak frontal boundary. Could bring a slight chance for some showers, but mostly I think it'll increase the cloudiness there. So the overnight temperatures tonight, again, kind of up to the mid-teens. It took a lot longer towards the GTA to see that temperature warming because of the winds coming off the lake earlier, and then they're back down tomorrow morning. So it's going to be above seasonal, but still, we don't really get to enjoy temperatures in the teens. All right, Thursday, 11 degrees for the high. Friday, it is a bit cooler with a high of just 7. And Saturday, you'll notice it because we'll start at -3. I think most will take that, given the very nice conditions we're going to have in terms of our sky conditions. And warming up into next week, Chris, I got 15 on the board for Monday. I'll tell you, we could see 20 as we get deeper into the week next week.
Oh, gosh, I can't wait. Thanks. Finally, tonight, we want to introduce you to an officer in Peel Region who is breaking new ground. Harley is a 2-year-old yellow lab, and she is helping police sniff out criminals in a way most officers cannot.
Basically, Harley's been trained to detect a chemical that's sprayed on any storage device. That chemical is placed on anything from a hard drive for a computer to SIM cards, USBs, anything.
The blonde bombshell is the newest member of the Peel Police Internet Child Exploitation Unit. Her primary role is to sniff out electronic storage devices that might otherwise go undetected by a human officer. Harley is the first electronic storage detection canine in Canada, and in just a couple of months with Peel Police, Harley has already been on several search warrants and has successfully located several storage devices. And Harley has many talents as well. Her handler tells us she also acts as a support dog for other officers. What a good girl. That is our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching, and happy Passover to everybody who celebrates. Maribel Tarouk has you covered tomorrow at 6, and I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night.